What does it really mean when a married man wants you? At first, it looks simple: desire, lust, or temptation. But the truth runs much deeper. If you've ever felt the confusing pull of a man who already belongs to someone else, you know, it's not just about attraction. It feels layered, intense, even dangerous. Why would someone risk stability, reputation, and love just to pursue what seems forbidden? This is where psychology opens the hidden door. Human behavior is rarely logical. Beneath the surface are wounds, unspoken fears, and unconscious drives that push people into choices they cannot fully explain. What feels like passion may be projection. What feels like connection may be emptiness disguised as desire. And what seems like love may actually be obsession. In this video, we're going to uncover the hidden forces at play when a married man still wants you, and the truth might surprise you more than you expect. Why he looks outside. When a man is married or in a committed relationship, most people assume his needs are met. On the surface, he appears settled, secure, and complete. Yet the fact that he still looks outside shows something deeper is happening. To understand this, we need to look beyond appearances and ask what pushes him to seek attention or connection elsewhere. Often, the reason has little to do with the partner he already has. It is easy to think he looks outside because something is missing in his home. But the truth is usually more personal. Many men look outside not because their partner fails, but because they themselves feel a gap inside. That gap may come from insecurity, boredom, or an unspoken desire for validation. Instead of facing it directly, they reach outward for distraction. One of the strongest forces behind this search is the hunger for novelty. Human beings are drawn to newness because it creates excitement. Routine feels safe, but it can also feel dull. The married man may love stability, yet still crave the spark that comes when something feels unfamiliar and alive. Seeking another, woman becomes less about leaving his partner and more about escaping monotony. He is not always chasing love. He is chasing sensation. Another powerful reason is the need to feel wanted. In long relationships, affection and attention often settle into habit. What was once fiery becomes normal. When a man feels he is no longer seen as exciting, his ego begins to whisper that he should find proof elsewhere. Looking outside gives him the rush of being noticed again. It is not necessarily about passion for someone new, but about reassurance for himself. Control also plays a role. Some men link their sense of power to the ability to attract others. Even if they are committed, they want to test whether they still have influence, whether they can still create desire. This is less about the person they pursue and more about proving something to themselves. They want to feel capable, admired, and strong. There is also the issue of unresolved emotions. Many men carry unhealed parts of themselves into relationships. Past wounds, fears of rejection, or feelings of inadequacy do not vanish simply because they have a partner. These hidden struggles can surface as restlessness. Instead of addressing them honestly, they escape into outside attention, hoping it will fill the emptiness. Of course, it never truly does. Looking outside also ties to secrecy and risk. The very act of doing something forbidden creates intensity. For some men, the thrill of secrecy is as strong as the attraction itself. It is not always about the woman. It is about the adrenaline of hiding, the drama of balancing two sides of life. This danger becomes addictive, making the outside pursuit feel more powerful than it really is. But what does this mean for you, the one being sought? It means his interest is not always a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of his conflict. When he looks at you, he may be projecting his own needs, using you as a mirror to see what he lacks. The desire can feel strong, but it is often more about him escaping himself than about building something real with you. This does not mean his feelings are fake. They may be intense and he may truly feel drawn, but intensity is not the same as truth. His pursuit reveals more about his state of mind than about your role. If he has a wife or girlfriend and still seeks you, the real question is not why you, but why is he divided inside? Understanding why he looks outside helps you see clearly. It removes the illusion that you are competing with his partner. You are not competing at all. The struggle is within him, between the safety of what he has and the hunger for what he thinks he needs. Until he faces that struggle honestly, he will remain split, no matter who he seeks. So, why does he look outside? Because stability alone does not silence insecurity, because routine does not erase the craving for newness, because hidden wounds still whisper, because the ego still demands proof. These are the real reasons, and they exist long before you enter the picture. Once you see this, you understand that his pursuit is not destiny. It is not fate. It is his own unresolved battle, and you are simply where it shows itself. That awareness is your strength. It allows you to step back, to see his actions for what they are, and to protect yourself from being caught in a conflict that was never yours to solve. What he really wants. When a married man seeks someone outside his relationship, it is easy to assume he simply wants another body, another bed, or another thrill. On the surface, it might appear that way, but beneath his actions lies a more complex truth. What he really wants often has less to do with the woman he pursues and more to do with the feelings he hopes to recover within himself. At the center of this desire is the need to feel alive. Long relationships often fall into patterns. Predictability creates comfort, but it can also create numbness. For some men, this stability begins to feel like silence inside the soul. What he really wants is not just a new partner. It is the spark of life that comes from feeling awakened again. He may confuse that spark with you, but in reality, he is chasing the feeling of being alive. Another powerful drive is the need for validation. In the early stages of any romance, compliments, attention, and admiration flow easily. Over time, these gestures become normal. A married man who feels unseen begins to crave proof that he is still attractive, still desired, still important. What he really wants then is not always love, but confirmation. He wants to look in someone's eyes and see himself reflected as powerful again. He also seeks escape from responsibility. Marriage or long-term relationships often come with weight: bills, children, routines, duties. These responsibilities shape daily life, but they also press heavily on the spirit. For some men, seeking someone new is less about passion and more about relief. The time spent outside feels lighter, freer, unburdened by duty. What he really wants in those moments is not you alone, but the version of himself that feels untied and free. Many men also carry wounds from their past. Feelings of rejection, childhood insecurities, or old failures linger beneath the surface. These wounds whisper that he is not enough. Instead of facing them, he looks for someone to silence the noise. When he seeks you, he is not just chasing attraction, he is chasing healing. He hopes that your attention will erase the hidden voice inside him. What he really wants is relief from his own pain, though he may not realize it. There is also the longing for adventure. Human beings are wired to chase new experiences. The unknown carries excitement, and excitement creates the illusion of passion. A man with a stable life may still long for the unpredictability of something forbidden. What he really wants is the adrenaline of risk, the heartbeat of secrecy, the rush that makes ordinary days feel extraordinary. It is not necessarily you alone that he wants. It is the thrill your presence represents. Another layer is the desire for control. In his daily life, he may feel powerless, stuck in routines where others expect things from him. By seeking someone new, he feels in control again. He decides when to appear, when to disappear, when to give attention and when to withhold it. This sense of control feeds his ego. What he really wants is not always love, but the feeling that he still has power over his world. Yet beneath all of this, there is often a silent truth. What he really wants is wholeness. He may not be able to name it, but deep inside, he longs to feel complete. He believes that someone else can fill the gaps he feels. But no matter how much attention he receives, the emptiness always returns. Because what he truly wants is something only he can find: acceptance of himself, peace with his life, and courage to face his shadow. For you, the important lesson is clarity. When a married man seeks you, do not mistake his intensity as proof of love. Do not confuse his pursuit with destiny. What he really wants is often hidden even from himself. He may tell you he wants you, but in truth he wants the feelings you awaken, the aliveness, the validation, the freedom, the adventure. You are the mirror, not the source. Seeing this truth protects you. It helps you step back and understand that his pursuit is not about your value or his partner's lack. It is about his own search for something he has not found inside. What he really wants is not always you. It is himself, hidden beneath layers of duty, fear, and desire. Sometimes the answers we search for in others are really hidden inside us. If you want to understand those patterns more deeply, the Jung Method can guide you. The link is waiting in the first pinned comment. The empty space at home. On the outside, his life may look complete. He has a wife or girlfriend, a home, and the routine of commitment. To family and friends, he appears steady, reliable, and responsible. But even in relationships that look strong, there can be an empty space that no one talks about. This space is not always physical, it is emotional. And when a man feels that emptiness at home, he begins to seek outside. The empty space does not always mean a lack of love. He may still care for his partner. He may still fulfill his duties and play his role. Yet inside, he feels something is missing. That missing piece can take many forms: a loss of passion, a sense of being unseen, or a feeling that daily life has become nothing but routine. When these feelings build up, he starts looking beyond the walls of his home. One of the most common sources of emptiness is the fading of excitement. In the beginning of a relationship, every glance feels electric. Conversations are endless, and small gestures carry great meaning. But over time, comfort replaces passion. What once felt new becomes ordinary. For some men, this transition feels like loss. The relationship is not broken, but the spark has grown dim. In that dimness, emptiness is born. Another cause of the empty space is lack of recognition. Many men crave acknowledgement, not just for what they do, but for who they are. When they feel unnoticed or underappreciated, the home that should feel like a sanctuary begins to feel like silence. They long for someone to notice their presence again, to remind them they still matter. This hunger for recognition is often what drives them to search elsewhere. Communication also plays a role. In some relationships, conversations shrink to practical matters, bills, chores, schedules. Emotional sharing fades into the background. Without space to express thoughts, fears, or dreams, a man may feel isolated even while living beside someone every day. The empty space becomes not about distance in miles, but distance in connection. There is also the burden of routine. Stability brings security, but it can also create heaviness. When life feels predictable, a man may begin to feel trapped. He starts to long for variety, for surprise, for anything that makes him feel alive again. At home, everything is safe, but unchanging. The empty space becomes the absence of newness. For some men, the empty space is tied to identity. Over the years, they may feel they have lost parts of themselves in the roles of partner, father, or provider. They wonder who they are beyond those roles. When that question remains unanswered, they look outside, hoping another person will remind them of their forgotten self. The pursuit of someone new becomes the pursuit of identity. But here is the truth. The empty space is not always created by the partner. It often comes from within. A man who avoids his own insecurities, who hides his fears, or who ignores his personal growth will feel emptiness no matter how much love he receives at home. Blaming the relationship is easier than facing himself. That is why many men keep seeking, even when they already have someone who loves them. For you, understanding this is essential. If a married man seeks you, do not believe it is proof that his partner failed. Do not assume it is because you are better or more special. The emptiness he feels was there long before you appeared. What he is chasing is not you alone, but the feeling of filling that gap. And unless he faces the real cause, the emptiness will return again and again. The empty space at home explains why his pursuit can feel so urgent. He is not only looking for affection, He is trying to silence the discomfort inside. You may feel flattered, but know this: his actions are not about destiny. They are about distraction. The emptiness belongs to him, not to you. Seeing this clearly protects your heart. It helps you avoid being pulled into his unresolved struggle. The empty space cannot be filled by anyone else. It can only be healed when he decides to confront it honestly. Until then, every pursuit will be temporary, because no outside attention can permanently close an inner gap. So when a man with a wife or girlfriend seeks you, remember, what you see is not just desire. It is the shadow of his empty space at home. And that space is his to face, not yours to fill. The pull of the forbidden. There is something about what is forbidden that makes it magnetic. When a man already has a wife or girlfriend, every step he takes towards someone else carries a sense of danger. That danger becomes part of the attraction. It is not always love or deep connection driving him. Often, it is the thrill of crossing. A line he knows he should not cross. The forbidden carries weight because it awakens adrenaline. Human beings are wired to respond to risk. When something feels off limits, the brain interprets it as rare and valuable. Even if the feeling is not real love, the fact that it is secret makes it feel more powerful. The hidden nature of the connection creates intensity that cannot be matched by everyday life. For many men, this intensity becomes addictive. At home, life is predictable. Routines repeat. Responsibilities demand attention, and everything feels steady but ordinary. Outside, the forbidden offers escape. The secrecy makes each interaction feel more alive. Even small moments, like a glance or a message, take on outsized meaning because they are not supposed to happen. The forbidden also feeds the ego. Knowing he can still attract someone despite being committed makes him feel powerful. The risk of losing it all, reputation, stability, love, makes the reward feel even greater. He convinces himself that because it is dangerous, it must be special. But danger and depth are not the same. The pull of the forbidden often masks emptiness, covering it with drama. Another reason the forbidden feels stronger is imagination. Because it cannot exist in the open, most of it lives in the mind. Fantasies build around what could happen, how it might feel, or what it might mean. The imagination inflates the connection, making it seem larger than life. Yet imagination is fragile. The moment reality enters, the magic fades. That is why many forbidden pursuits lose power once exposed. The pull of the forbidden also comes from contrast. At home, everything is known. With you, everything is uncertain. That contrast sharpens emotions. He compares the two worlds and convinces himself that the forbidden one is more alive. But what he feels is not depth, it is difference. Newness feels brighter when compared to routine, but brightness does not mean truth. For you, this pull can be confusing. His attention may feel intense, and you may believe it reflects something unique about you. But much of what he feels comes from the secrecy itself. If the same connection were lived in daylight, without fear or hiding, it would not feel as overwhelming. The forbidden is what amplifies it. It is important to see the danger clearly. The forbidden makes him reckless, but it also puts you at risk. You may be pulled into his drama, believing the intensity means destiny. In reality, the forbidden is feeding both of you with illusions. It tricks the heart into thinking passion equals love, when in truth, passion built on secrecy rarely lasts. The forbidden also creates confusion between value and rarity. Just because something is hidden does not mean it is more meaningful. It only means it is less accessible. He mistakes the difficulty of reaching you for proof of importance. This is not about depth, it is about scarcity. And scarcity does not build real connection. When you understand the pull of the forbidden, you see it for what it is: a psychological trick. The danger creates adrenaline, the secrecy creates intensity, the imagination creates fantasy. Together, they form the illusion of something extraordinary. But strip away the secrecy, and what remains is often ordinary. The lesson is not to be fooled by intensity. Forbidden desire burns bright, but it burns fast. Real love does not need to hide. It does not need risk to feel alive. It grows in honesty, openness, and truth. When you see the difference, you can step back from the illusion and protect your heart. So when a married man wants you, remember, much of the force you feel is the pull of the forbidden. It is strong, but it is not proof of love. It is the thrill of crossing a line, and that thrill belongs to him, not to you. Why he chooses you. When a married man looks outside his relationship, one question always rises. Why you? Out of all the people he could have noticed, why is his attention directed at you? The answer is rarely about simple attraction. What draws him is not just your appearance, but what you represent to him in a moment of conflict within himself. He chooses you because you awaken something he feels he has lost. In long relationships, people can begin to feel invisible. The daily rhythm of life makes passion fade into routine. When he interacts with you, he feels seen again. Your presence reminds him of energy, confidence, and excitement he fears may be gone. It is not only you he sees, it is the reflection of himself he finds when you respond to him. He also chooses you because you represent possibility. At home, everything is known and predictable. With you, there is mystery. That mystery creates a sense of freedom. He imagines that through you, he can explore parts of himself that remain hidden in his daily life. You become a doorway to the unknown, and that unknown feels irresistible. Another reason is projection. He may place qualities on you that he longs for but does not fully experience in his current relationship. If he feels unappreciated, he believes you admire him. If he feels bored, he believes you bring excitement. If he feels restricted, he believes you offer freedom. Much of this is not about who you truly are, but about what his mind needs you to be. He chooses you because, in his imagination, you fill his gaps. Ego also plays a role. To a man questioning, his worth being desired by you is proof that he is still attractive, still powerful, still wanted. Choosing you allows him to silence the doubts whispering inside. Every time you respond, he feels stronger. He is not only seeking you, he is seeking confirmation that he is enough. He may also choose you because you seem unattainable. Desire grows stronger when it meets resistance. If you appear distant, careful, or hesitant, he reads it as a challenge. That challenge makes him chase harder, believing the effort means the connection must be real. In truth, the chase is often about his own hunger for victory, not about genuine love. Another factor is timing. Sometimes a man notices someone at the exact moment he feels weakest inside. You may cross his path during a period when he feels ignored, stressed, or lost. Your presence collides with his emptiness, and suddenly you feel essential. He convinces himself it is fate when, in reality, it is timing. You appeared when he was vulnerable, and that vulnerability made his desire stronger. Importantly, his choice is not proof that you are better than his partner. Comparison is not the reason. The truth is simpler. You reflect something he is hungry for in that moment. He may still care deeply for his partner, but his inner conflict drives him to seek outside. His choice of you says more about his state of mind than about either woman. For you, the danger is mistaking his choice as destiny. His attention may feel powerful, but power does not always mean truth. He chooses you not only for who you are, but for the feelings you awaken in him. Those feelings are real, but they may not last, because they are tied to his inner conflict. When the conflict shifts, his attention can shift too. The lesson is to see clearly. He chooses you because you are a mirror, a symbol, a spark of possibility. None of these roles define your true worth. They explain his behavior, but they do not determine your value. You are not simply the answer to his emptiness. His emptiness belongs to him, and until he faces it, his choices will remain unstable. So when you ask, why me? The answer is layered. He chooses you because you make him feel alive. He chooses you because you represent freedom. He chooses you because you reflect back what he misses in himself. These reasons may feel flattering, but they are fragile. They are built on his needs, not on a foundation of real love. In the end, he chooses you not because you complete him, but because you awaken the parts of himself he struggles to face. And once you see this, you stop mistaking his choice for destiny. You recognize it for what it is, a reflection of his inner conflict, not a declaration of true commitment. The truth behind his words. When a married man speaks to you, his words can sound convincing. He might say you are special, that you mean more to him than anyone else, or that no one has ever made him feel the same way. He may promise change, hint at a future, or insist that you are different. At first, it is easy to believe these words. They carry intensity, emotion, and urgency. But beneath them lies another reality. His words often reveal less about you and more about his conflict. The truth is that his words are shaped by the situation. Because he cannot give you everything openly, he gives you what he can through language. Words become his currency, his way of keeping you close without making real changes. They are powerful because they touch emotions, but they can also be fragile because they are not always backed by action. One of the first truths to recognize is that his words are often exaggerated. The secrecy of the connection makes him speak more passionately than he might in a normal relationship. Simple compliments turn into declarations. Casual attraction becomes described as destiny. The forbidden nature of what is happening pushes him to inflate his feelings with dramatic language. It may sound deep, but it is usually intensity created by circumstance, not by reality. Another truth is that his words often hide uncertainty. When he says you are unforgettable, it may be because he feels restless and wants reassurance that you will stay. When he says he cannot stop thinking of you, it may be less about devotion and more about his own obsession. His language reflects his need for validation as much as it reflects desire for you. Promises are another part of his vocabulary. He may speak about leaving, about change, about what life could be if only circumstances were different. These promises often remain in the future because he is not ready to act in the present. Words are easier than choices. They allow him to imagine freedom without paying the price of it. For him, talking about change gives relief. For you, it can create confusion, because it sounds like commitment when it is really avoidance. It is also important to see how his words shift depending on your response. If you pull away, he may intensify his declarations, saying things that make you feel essential. If you come closer, he may step back, speaking in ways that keep distance. His words adapt to the moment, not always to the truth. This flexibility shows that they are tools, not always reflections of his heart. The strongest clue about his words is found in his actions. If his words and actions match, they carry weight. If they do not, then the words are serving a different purpose. For example, if he says he wants a future but continues his life unchanged, then the words are not about real plans. They are about holding on to the feeling of possibility. They are more about what he wants to believe than what he will actually do. This does not mean his words are always lies. He may feel genuine emotion when he speaks, but genuine feeling does not guarantee lasting truth. In the moment, he may believe everything he says, but feelings shaped by secrecy and conflict shift quickly. What feels real today may fade tomorrow because it was not rooted in stability. His sincerity in the moment does not make his words a foundation you can trust. For you, the lesson is not to cling to his words alone. Listen, but also watch. Observe whether his actions reflect the promises he makes. Notice whether his behavior shows the same devotion he speaks of. If his language is filled with intensity but his actions remain the same, you are hearing his conflict, not his commitment. The truth behind his words is that they are mirrors of his divided state. They reveal his longing, his emptiness, his fantasies, and his fear. They keep you engaged, but they rarely solve the deeper problem. He uses them to build a bridge between what he wants and what he cannot give. That bridge feels real, but it leads nowhere unless he chooses to step fully into truth. In the end, his words matter only if they are backed by courage. Without courage, they remain sounds in the air, attractive but unstable. Once you see this, you no longer get lost in his declarations. You learn to separate what is real from what is spoken in passion. You stop mistaking dramatic language for true devotion. So when he tells you that you are the only one, pause. Ask yourself, does his life reflect his words? When he says he cannot live without you, ask, does he act as though he is building a life with you? The answers reveal more than the words themselves. The truth behind his words is simple. They are often born from desire, from fear, from ego, from emptiness. Sometimes they are sincere, sometimes they are not. But they are rarely steady. Real love does not need exaggeration. Real love does not need constant promises. Real love shows itself in consistent action. When feelings turn into obsession. At first, his attention may feel flattering. A married man noticing you can bring excitement, curiosity, and even a sense of power. But what begins as simple attraction can quickly grow into something heavier. When feelings cross the line into obsession, the entire dynamic changes. What was once playful or light becomes consuming, unstable, and dangerous to both hearts involved. Obsession often starts small. He thinks about you during quiet moments, checks for your presence, or waits for your response. These thoughts may seem harmless, but over time they multiply. What was once an occasional distraction becomes a constant focus. His mind circles back to you again and again, until he cannot escape the thought of your presence. This is no longer about connection. It is about compulsion. One reason feelings shift into obsession is scarcity. Because you are not fully his. Every moment with you feels more intense. He convinces himself that because it is limited, it must be rare and valuable. The less he can have, the more he wants. This creates a cycle where your absence fuels his desire even more than your presence. The space between encounters makes the obsession grow. Another reason is secrecy. The hidden nature of the connection makes everything feel more important. Every glance, every word, every meeting carries weight because it is forbidden. The secrecy intensifies his feelings, and intensity begins to look like love, but it is not love. It is the pressure of hiding, transforming ordinary emotions into something extreme. Obsession also feeds on ego. When you respond, he feels powerful, admired, wanted. That validation becomes addictive. He begins to chase it repeatedly, needing more each time to feel satisfied. The more he receives, the more he demands. His desire is no longer about sharing affection. It is about feeding an endless hunger inside him. The danger of obsession is that it distorts perception. He stops seeing you clearly and instead sees the fantasy in his mind. He may place you on a pedestal, convincing himself that you are perfect, that you complete him, or that you are the answer to everything missing in his life. But no person can carry that weight. The moment you cannot match his fantasy, disappointment follows. Obsession creates false images, and false images always collapse. For you, obsession can feel overwhelming. His attention may seem deep, his words passionate, his presence magnetic. But the truth is that obsession is not steady. It cannot give stability, because it thrives on imbalance. If you step closer, he may feel relief for a time, but soon the hunger returns. If you pull away, the obsession often intensifies because the chase itself fuels the fire. Either way, the cycle continues until you step outside it. When feelings turn into obsession, they also blind him to consequences. He risks more, hides more, and lies more, all to protect the connection. The obsession convinces him that nothing else matters, even while he remains tied to his existing life. This double pressure eventually breaks something: his peace, his relationship, or the trust of everyone involved. The most painful truth is that obsession does not build a future. It repeats itself endlessly, demanding attention but never creating growth. Love can grow, but obsession only consumes. It drains energy, steals clarity, and creates chaos. It feels powerful in the moment, but it leaves emptiness afterward. 2. Protect yourself. You must see the signs. Obsession reveals itself in intensity that feels unbalanced. It shows up when his words are larger than his actions, when his emotions swing between extremes, and when his presence feels more consuming than comforting. Recognizing these signs helps you step back before you are caught in his spiral. It is tempting to believe obsession equals love because the emotions are strong, but strength of feeling does not guarantee truth. In fact, the stronger the obsession, the less likely it is grounded in reality. What he feels is not about destiny. It is about his own unresolved needs, projected onto you. You are not his completion. You are his mirror. When feelings turn into obsession, the choice before you becomes clear. You can remain in the cycle, feeding his hunger and losing your peace, or you can step away, choosing clarity over chaos. Walking away may be difficult, but it is the only way to free yourself from becoming trapped in someone else's compulsion. In the end, obsession is a shadow of love, not its true form. It imitates passion but lacks stability. It promises intensity, but cannot provide peace. Once you see the difference, you no longer confuse the fire of obsession for the light of love. You learn to protect yourself, to stand firm, and to demand a connection built on truth, not compulsion. How you take back control. When a married man wants you, it can feel as if he holds the power. His attention may seem overwhelming, his presence intense, and his words convincing. But the truth is, the power is never in his hands unless you give it to him. Taking back control means seeing clearly, setting boundaries, and remembering your own worth. You are not defined by his desires. You are defined by the choices you make for yourself. The first step in regaining control is clarity. Many times his pursuit is wrapped in confusion. He may say one thing and do another. He may pull you close, then disappear. This inconsistency can leave you questioning yourself, wondering what is real. Clarity comes when you stop interpreting his mixed signals as destiny. Instead, you recognize them for what they are, signs of his inner conflict, not of your future. The second step is boundaries. Without boundaries, his desires can slowly take over your peace of mind. Boundaries are not about punishing him. They are about protecting yourself. They tell him what you will and will not accept. They remind you that your emotional health is more important than his attention. Boundaries create space between his conflict and your peace. Another way to take back control is to stop chasing answers from him. It is natural to want clarity. You may hope he will explain his actions or reveal his true intentions, but relying on his words to find peace keeps you tied to his cycle. Instead, you create your own answers. You decide what behavior is acceptable, what role you are willing to play, and what you deserve. That decision gives you freedom. Taking back control also means refusing to compete. It is easy to believe you are in competition with his wife or girlfriend, as if his choice between you both defines your value. But you are not competing. His struggle is not between two women. His struggle is within himself. Once you realize this, you no longer measure yourself by his actions. You step out of the comparison and stand firm in your own worth. Walking away is often the most powerful expression of control. It does not mean weakness. It means you refuse to be a piece in his divided life. It means you choose peace over chaos, truth over illusion. The moment you step out, the entire game collapses. His attention no longer has power because you are no longer playing. Walking away is the strongest way to show that your dignity cannot be negotiated. Control also comes from shifting focus. Instead of wondering what he feels, you ask yourself what you need. Instead of questioning his love, you affirm your own value. Instead of waiting for his decisions, you make your own. The shift is simple but profound. Your life is not defined by his choices but by yours. It is also important to see obsession for what it is. His intensity may feel flattering, but obsession is not love. By recognizing this, you take away its power. You remind yourself that strong feelings are not always steady feelings, and you refuse to let his restlessness decide your future. Taking back control does not mean you erase emotions. You may still feel drawn to him. You may still wonder why he came into your life. But control means you do not let those emotions rule you. You feel them, you acknowledge them, and then you choose what protects your peace. That choice is where true strength lies. In the end, control is about freedom. Freedom to step out of confusion. Freedom to live without secrecy. Freedom to choose relationships built on truth. When you take back control, you no longer wait for him to decide who you are to him. You decide who you are to yourself, and that decision will always be more powerful than his desire. So remember, his pursuit does not define your value. His attention does not determine your future. His words do not control your destiny. The power is in your hands, in your clarity, your boundaries, your choices. Once you see this, you realize you were never powerless. You only needed to remember your strength.